Welcome to our podcast, Inspiring Living, with me, Mark Candelaria. I am an architect, blogger, traveler, chef, father, and husband. I am the founder and now partner of a fabulous 20-person architecture firm specializing in high-end residential architecture, designing amazing homes across the country. We have hosted tours over the last 20 years to Italy, Spain, and soon Napa. And in the course of all this, I have met a lot of interesting people who truly inspire me. We are excited to now be in our second season, and our podcast is about all the opportunities that are right there in front of us to inspire living. Yes, we will talk about architecture and design, but every week we will venture to all sorts of topics that will inspire you, teach you, and motivate you to inspire living every day. My guests will include a wide gamut of amazing people, from those in the design industry to clients to real estate professionals, chefs, artists, sports figures, and philanthropists, and people who just flat out get it. So sit back and enjoy, and let's have some fun exploring all the opportunities that are there just waiting for us. Please subscribe and get ready to be inspired every week. Okay, as my dad says, here we go. Welcome, everyone, and thanks again for listening to our podcast, Inspiring Living. Welcome to our second season of podcasts, and welcome to February. Just want to say a happy birthday to my dad, who celebrated his 86th birthday this past weekend. And Dad, Mom, and I and Isabel will be spending this coming Sunday together watching the Super Bowl, which looks to be a pretty exciting matchup. Today's podcast features two truly amazing gentlemen who are part of an organization that has become very dear to my heart, and I'm proud to say I'm a board member of. Today, we welcome CEO and President of the Arizona Central Chapter of Habitat for Humanity, Jason Barlow, and our Habitat Board of Directors Chair and renowned realtor, Chris Owen. The need for housing for many has become so challenging given this hot housing market, which has driven prices up and pushed many out of the market. Habitat for Humanity is doing its best to help tackle this issue head on, and so I encourage you to listen to the podcast and get a new perspective on a part of our community that is really struggling in these challenging times. Okay, give this a listen and direct message me your thoughts and give our podcast a review. We love those reviews. And okay, here we go. Last week, I had two amazing ladies from the group Elevate, a charity I am actively involved in, whose mission is to deliver long-term, life-changing relationships with urban youth. And today I have two gentlemen who are equally amazing and who represent another charity organization of which I'm an active board member on, and that's Habitat for Humanity. Today via Zoom, I have Jason Barlow, who is the president and CEO of the Central Arizona chapter of Habitat for Humanity, and we have our board chair, Chris Owen, with us. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and welcome.
Good afternoon, Mark. Thank you for having us.
You bet. The Zoom actually works pretty darn good for these podcasts, to be honest with you. It saves everybody a lot of time. It's nice to get together with you because at our 4 o'clock podcast, we can usually end with a glass of wine, but we'll have to do that virtually today, I guess. So at least this is safe, I guess, is the other thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, Jason, you and I have done a couple podcasts together. The first was about you and your life and how you became involved in Habitat for Humanity. And then the second, we were on site last year sometime recording the podcast from a Habitat for Humanity house that was under construction. And I remember it was pretty cold that morning, but we got the job done like you guys always do. So
that was really a neat experience. I remember standing out there shivering, almost before sunrise.
Yeah.
The site was, of course, pre-COVID, already covered with volunteers who were working hard to build another home for a deserving family.
Yeah, and I'll put the episode link in your show notes here, because that was a fun little podcast. We had some of the key people that were involved in the construction, and we had the homeowner there, which I thought was one of the best parts of that podcast, was his perspective on building his home and what this meant to him. And I think that was what this is all about. I mean, that hit the core for me.
Yeah, that was really a special interview for sure, Mark.
Yep. So then, Chris, we have met by being fellow board members, of course, and we're good Instagram and social media buddies too. I love following you and all your endeavors and your activity, and I think we have a lot of fun together.
Absolutely. You have introduced me to a couple of great restaurants via Instagram, and actually I made a reservation at Ocotillo a restaurant that I've never been to, but saw that you posted something delectable looking
I'll tell
from a
you.
recent dinner there. And so when my wife and I decided to go out Saturday night, we decided that's where we were headed. So
We went there last night was the first time we were there, and I know I'm not doing a big plug for Ocotillo, but maybe I'll get a sponsorship out of him from this. I'll tell you, that dinner was fantastic. I had the pork shank, and it was spot on. So you're going to enjoy that place. And I know you and I run into each other at restaurants.
I met you at Tarbell's, again,
Yeah.
another restaurant that I visited based on your recommendation.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
happen to live in the West Valley, and the West Valley isn't blessed with quite the number of fine dining establishments as Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, the neighborhoods you hang out in. So
Yeah.
it's a treat for us when we come to town and get to go out to eat. And a person could do much worse than just dine at the same places that you dine at on a regular basis.
Well, thank you. Well, I know I've got a couple foodies here, because I know, Jason, you're a foodie too. So I think
yeah.
the three of us in our special partners, we're gonna have to all get together for dinner some night.
Absolutely.
That would be great. And you're such a celebrity chef, Mark. We kind of took your idea, and as part of getting through this COVID fatigue, we're doing a lunch cooking demonstration on Zoom. And
Good.
I think we're up to our 6th staff member who gets in their kitchen and films themselves preparing something while all the other staff are watching it on Zoom. Some are actually working along and preparing the dish along with them, and the recipe and ingredients are set out ahead of time.
There you
It's
go.
been pretty cool.
There you go. Put me on that list. I would love to do that with you guys. That would be
Okay.
fun.
Okay.
So, Jason, let's talk about the mission of Habitat for Humanity. Tell us a little bit. I mean, we all know Jimmy Carter, and we know that whole side of Habitat for Humanity. But in the 2 or 3 years that I've been involved with Habitat for Humanity, first of all, let me just say, you guys run one of the most amazing organizations I have ever been involved with. I mean, in terms of financial management, just everything, the way you guys run the ship, it is just so well done. And that's a big testament to you, of course, Jason. But tell us what Habitat's all about.
Well, thank you. And I have an amazing team. You both know that. Amazing senior leadership, directors, managers, all the way down or up, if you please, because I work for all of them. And we have a great group of people. So Habitat's mission is to bring God's people together to build homes, communities, and hope. And we all envision a world where everyone has a decent place to live. And oh boy, can you imagine, when this COVID pandemic hit, what did the government say? What was the first thing? Go home and shelter in place.
Exactly.
Go to your safe, secure, stable home and shelter in place. Well, just think about the tens of thousands of people right here in the Valley of the Sun that don't have a decent, safe, affordable, place to call home, right? Safe space.
Yep.
So our mission has just grown more and more important, I feel, in building new homes. Most people can remember or think about Habitat as building a home for a single family. And oh, by the way, we don't give our homes away. That a lot of people think Habitat builds them and gives them away. No, our homeowners, home buyers really buy their home from Habitat at an affordable mortgage. We don't charge any interest. We're the bank. We originate. We carry the note. So, and we'll stretch the payments out from 20 to 40 years to make sure they don't exceed 30% of the person's gross, the family's gross monthly income. But
Yeah.
the other thing we're doing, and that's amazing. And by the way, the family works on their home and it's built by volunteers, but we're now into affordable repairs, going door to door neighborhoods and seeing what kind of services they need. We help people age in place. And we also have construction training programs and other things. So Habitat's involved in a lot of different things, including our retail stores, which help money come back to the mission and keep stuff out of the landfills.
Yeah, and we'll talk about all those things, because
Yeah.
all those things to me are just absolutely amazing aspects of Habitat that I think more people need to know more about. So with the COVID situation that you brought up, the pandemic, I think you make such a good point. I mean, I think a lot of people, especially a lot of the people I deal with, take it for granted that, go home and shelter in and turn on your 5 Zoom cameras for your 6 kids that, have 25 laptops. And,
Yeah.
well, that's just not the case. I mean, there's a lot of families that, like you said, don't have even a home, and, they've got 2 or 3 kids. And so I think it's really great to make people aware of, what else is out there and how other people are struggling with this. And I mean, we're talking really struggling.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that you bring that up. And so how has COVID impacted Habitat? I mean, I know when you guys, we get churches together and business organizations come out to the sites. I mean, it's been hard just to facilitate building these houses, I'm imagining.
Right. Well, we were deemed an essential activity or service when the governor put out the edicts in March and April about, trying to control COVID spread. And we did. We pretty much shut down for about a month and a half.
Yep.
But then, as we started looking, like a gopher, we stuck our head up out of the hole, looked around, and said, this could last a long time. What are we going to do here? We need to learn how to live with this and thrive and prevail, and not just go to our caves and roll the stone in front.
Right.
So, as I like to tell Chris, we like to think that rather than hitting the brakes, we've kind of hit the gas and trying to figure out how we can continue to build these homes and communities. And so, with all the safety precautions in the world and all the CDC guidelines, we have more limited number of volunteers, but we're back to still having some volunteers on sites, using all the precautions, and we're still getting homes done. We've put 20 families in their homes since the middle of March of last year, 20 families in brand new homes, and served another 250 or so in repairs and other things just since the pandemic broke out, all using every precaution we can to help.
That's awesome. Chris, what do you think about all that?
Mark, we are blessed, truly blessed as an organization to have some of the most dedicated volunteers of any organization that I've ever been a part of. We are using a limited number of volunteers, but we're using, I believe the term Jason used on our call we had earlier today was long-term volunteers. So when we build a house, there's typically a group of volunteers that shows up, week in and week out to help build that house. And if you think about that group sort of being like a little pod unto themselves, of course they're wearing masks and everything else. They're not regularly interacting with a bunch of strangers.
Right.
And because of that, we feel like, we're able to use those volunteers and we're able to use them safely, and they show up for us and they do the work. And at our last volunteer appreciation day, Jason, you'll have to help me remember the name of the guy, but we gave him an award for something like 20,000 hours of volunteer work that he's given us. And I'm trying to think, there's not a full-time job that I've ever had where I've spent 20,000 hours. And here's a guy who's found enough spare time, because he's not being paid for this, to have racked up 20,000 volunteer hours, building homes for Habitat for Humanity. So, we're blessed with some long-term volunteers. The corporate sponsorships, fortunately, have continued to come in. We've been blessed with some very generous donors who understood that during this time of the pandemic, that the need for an organization like Habitat was greater, and have really stepped up to the plate. So fortunately, through some great leadership with Jason and his team, we figured out how to continue operations. There was a period of time where we had to close our restores, but as Home Depot and other organizations, figured out how to safely operate, we figured out how to safely operate.
Right.
And fortunately, we have had some team members who have gotten sick from COVID, but it hasn't been, super serious.
Yeah.
And we don't think there are any infections that we can sort of trace back to a Habitat kind of event because of the precautions that we're taking. But at the end of the day,
everywhere.
At the end of the day, we sort of maintain our place as the largest Habitat affiliate in the country. Not to steal any of Jason's thunder potentially later, but one of the largest Habitat affiliate in the country in terms of numbers of families that we serve. We served over 350 people in the last fiscal year. Wow. And if we had just retrenched and said, well, we can't do this in a pandemic kind of environment, that's 350 families who would have been, demonstrably worse off because they didn't get the benefit of our services. So I couldn't be proud of the organization. I couldn't be prouder of our volunteers, of our staff, and of the people who have continued to open their checkbooks and open their wallets to help us out in this time of need.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm looking forward to retiring when I can come and help more, because right now we're so darn busy for the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right.
It's just so interesting. I mean, have you guys seen, are you seeing from your perspective, have things out there gotten a lot worse than they were, back in, let's just say January of last year before the pandemic hit? Is the need greater now than it was then? I'm imagining it is.
If you had another real estate professional on your show for one of your most recent podcasts,
Yeah.
and she talked about what a hot market there was in Paradise Valley and in Scottsdale. Well, that hot market's happening everywhere across the valley. I'm a realtor myself.
Yep.
Have been working in real estate now for the last couple of years. If you look in the Arizona Regional Multiple Listing System, there are only about 6,500 properties listed. We're
Wow.
selling about 9,000 homes a month in that same system. So as soon as properties come on the market, they're being snapped up.
Yep.
You get a lot of people that are moving here from Midwestern. People have always moved here from other places, but because of the pandemic and because of the way Arizona has remained relatively open compared to some other parts of the country, you got people moving here in droves from places like California, Illinois, colder places, and it's putting tremendous pressure on the housing market. And so you're seeing, a ton of just price inflation in
Right.
houses. Homes that 3-4 years ago would have sold for $250,000 and might have reasonably been considered affordable for the families that we aim to serve, are now selling for $350,000 and have just become, unreachable.
Right.
And so, people's incomes have not kept up with the increases in these housing prices, which impacts the affordability equation. And that's where Habitat plays, is in that affordability equation. So, if anything else, this hot real estate market has just put that much more pressure on the families that we aim to serve in terms of making that dream of home ownership and that attainability that much harder to achieve.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I mean, I don't think a lot of us ever think about that perspective. I mean, I know in the world I'm living in, I'm always looking at that upper end perspective. And yeah, what a great party. It's like, just keep building houses and selling them for more and more. But no one thinks of the other end of the spectrum and how it's affecting that end tremendously.
And sort of on the flip side of that, if you think about where most families have most of their wealth tied up, it's in the equity that they have in a home.
Yep.
You're a renter, and you're effectively sitting on the sidelines for one of the biggest, housing market booms that this country has seen. Hopefully it's sustainable. Hopefully this isn't a replay of the late 2000s.
Yep.
But a lot of people have seen their net worths increase dramatically because the equity in their homes has increased because overall pricing in this market has increased. If you're a renter, you've seen your rent go up, but you haven't seen your balance sheet improve any.
Right.
So, the people that we put into houses, the people that become Habitat homeowners that are buying their homes from us, get to enjoy some of that price appreciation that we're seeing in the overall market.
Yeah.
We do have things.
I love the program that you guys have of providing the financing you were mentioning earlier, Jason. I just think that's so great that you're in control of that note and that loan and what happens with it and how it's executed. I think that's a huge difference than what a bank would ever do. Let's put it that way.
That's right. We're not a credit score driven organization. We basically can count. We need people that have decent credit or fixable credit, but we're not driven by those score numbers. And our goal is to kind of count all of the income in a family's in the family towards qualifying for the home.
Right.
And so our desire is to build affordable homes for lower income folks that couldn't find a conventional mortgage that they could afford to get in there. And let me just tag on to what Chris said. First of all, he was praising our volunteers, and I have to tell you, Chris is our board chair, is our chief volunteer officer, and you're a volunteer with us too, Mark.
Yeah.
So we have amazing volunteers, that's for sure. And Habitat has been hit really hard in a lot of different areas besides not being able to bring all of new volunteers out. We're seeing construction costs rise. I think we've seen 30% increase in lumber.
Yep.
Cement has gone through the roof. We're having delays in windows and slabs. I mean, just getting slabs poured because the housing boom is just skyrocketing here. Why would somebody come and pour one slab for a Habitat home down in South Phoenix when they're on a job site where they're pouring 1,000 for, luxury apartments or condos or something? So we like to say every Habitat home's a miracle. It's a miracle because you have a family, a sponsor, and volunteers. Now add in there a slab and other supplies and city approvals. By the way, the cities have all kind of slowed down. They've done an amazing job, of course, adapting and pivoting, but there's been delays in permitting and so forth. So it's hit us kind of almost in every single area.
Yeah, and I look at it like, again, from that perspective of the new homeowner or someone that's had a hard time and they're trying to get back on their feet, and this is their chance to put the sweat equity into this house. And it's so tough. And you mentioned construction costs going up, but I mean, and Chris, you mentioned, where do you find the lots? Where do you find the land in this market to even do a project? I mean, that's got to be a difficult problem.
Any of your listeners out there are sitting on maybe 30, 40 acres, prime real estate they're not doing anything with, give us a call. We can put it to really great use.
And I think that's it. I mean, there's so many opportunities for people to help out on this side of the equation. What I love about Habitat is what I see is, everything that's brought in or donated, man, you guys put it to immediate use. There's no bureaucracy. There's no waste. And so I tell people, look, if you want to give to an organization where your dollar is going to make a huge impact on society in general, it's Habitat for Humanity. I mean, it puts people to work. It gives them pride. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. And I just think, I think more people need to figure out a way to give back to some of these type of organizations because they make such an impact on our lives. And they, when these people have a house to live in, I'm not going to try to get too political, but they got a house to live in, they can make the payment, they're working. That's a lot better than someone that's on the street that maybe, trying to put food on the table by robbing somebody or committing a crime. It's just overall for society, I just think it's so much more productive. So
people need to have a stake in the American dream. Right. If people, if people on the lower end of the income spectrum see, the more fortunate doing really, really well, while they feel like they're doing nothing but falling farther and farther behind, it's a recipe for disaster. Yeah, and it's a recipe for instability. And I don't think any of us want to find ourselves in that situation. I mean, if you've done well in this economy, you owe it, to your fellow mankind to give something back. And I can't think of a better organization to give back to or give back through than Habitat.
That's what I think too. I mean, I think the other way is, we raise our taxes and the money goes to the tax department and they distribute it however it's going to. Well, that money, that let's just say you pay $100 of taxes, you're going to be lucky if a penny makes it to one of these houses. As an example. Whereas on Habitat, you put $100 towards Habitat. I don't know the numbers, but from my perspective, I bet you, maybe $90 is going to that house, or it's that much of a swing of the pendulum. And so to me, it's like, let's try to get more into the hands of organizations like this that are making an immediate impact on these problems. So sorry, that's just the way I feel, but
we will spend your money and we'll spend it quickly and we'll spend it very productively. Yeah. We're blessed with an amazing staff at Habitat, but they're incredibly efficient at what they do. And they can pinch a penny so hard it'll turn into a nickel.
That's true. I'm just flabbergasted by what you guys do. So speaking of money, we had the fundraiser last year. Our fundraiser was virtual last year, which you guys did a great job with that. That was a lot of fun. And I think we did pretty good, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a record-breaking event, believe it or not.
Yep.
for Habitat. We normally have once a year, kind of in the spring, what we call Blueprints and Blue Jeans. It's just a fun,
Yep.
casual event. And in fact, the one previous to this year, we had Jerry Coangelo as a guest speaker, thanks to Mark, who asked Jerry and Joan if they'd like to come to our event. And they did. We raised a bunch of money then for a home in Central City South. But this year, because of COVID, and it was right in that area,
Right in the heart of it. Yep.
right in the heart of it, where we had to just pivot. And no kidding, within about a month and a half, we went from thin air to a production. Carrie Pena, who's a former newscaster here and has her own company now. Yeah, she's great. And she emceed the thing, put it all together, and the proceeds benefited our Aging in Place program. And it was an amazing event. And what was cool about it is Chris wasn't even in Arizona. He didn't have to be. Where were you, in Florida?
No, I was in Virginia, but yes, I
Virginia.
got to watch it virtually with my family.
And we think we had over 600 families watching that night. And normally, our normal venue, we probably could only fit 200 or 250. So
Right.
think of the additional reach we got. And of course, that was a novelty maybe. And this year, we're going to have our event in June. We haven't nailed down the exact date, but we're probably going to do a hybrid event where we'll do, God willing, a live component with a Zoom kind of virtual component, so that people who, we have a lot of snowbirds that work with us and so forth, people in Canada, they can watch this thing from wherever they are and get in on the fun and the action and help Habitat.
I think that's great. I think that would have been my guess of where you guys were going to go with it, because we've been seeing the same thing with just our business. There's been a lot of great lessons that we've learned from this whole pandemic, and we're trying to take the best from it and adapt it to our operations. And there have been a lot of great things like Zoom and a bunch of things that just really added a lot of efficiency. And so I think that's just what you have to do in life, is just constantly, learn from every situation. Go, hey, this is something that actually works pretty darn well. And that virtual fundraiser, Blue Jeans and Blueprints and Blue Jeans, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed watching that night.
Yeah, thank you. That was helping Habitat from home. Had a nice ring to it, and it was true. And we had Larry Fitzgerald. Thanks again to Mark and Kurt Warner as our special guests, and they were both fantastic in their presentations, and just the sentiment and the sincerity at which they approach the mission and helping others.
Yeah, no, they're both great people, and you brought up the Colangelos earlier. I mean, people that have really done a lot to give back to this community, and I really applaud them and thank them for doing that for us. So tell us what Habitat is up to right now. What are some of the exciting projects underway, you guys? What do we got cooking?
Well, we've got 2 new neighborhoods. We are approaching Palomino and Sunny Slope, kind of in North Phoenix. And we're looking at them for neighborhood revitalization. That's a program where we go into a neighborhood that through census data we know is underserved, and we can go due to generous donors, church groups, and others, we can just go in and offer services that they may need and not be able to afford, such as windows, roofs, that kind of thing. And so we have those, and then we already have Victory Acres, Central City South, and the Grand Canyon corridor right around GCU has been a partner with us for 5 years now. And I'm sure we're over 300 families we've served in that neighborhood. That's a wonderful program because we use the Arizona tax credit money, which you kind of mentioned earlier. If you're a single individual, you can give $400 a year. Families can give $800. That just comes right off your Arizona tax liability. You can give it to a charity like Habitat, and we'll put it to good use. And oh, by the way, you don't pay it to the state. And at GCU, they have a cool program where they just do a payroll deduction. And then every quarter, they just write us a check. And there's about 1,600 faculty members that do that now. And so that provides an ongoing source of funds for that entire neighborhood into what I call the love blanket. And oh, by the way, those families still will pay 30% of whatever the cost of the repair is. The love blanket fund pays the other 70, and then we usually get volunteers and sometimes contractors staff to come in and complete the repairs, the work that's needed.
Yeah.
And so that's what we hope to do in the other two neighborhoods. We also, our Aging in Place program got a big shot in the arm from our last event, as I've already mentioned. That was a great start. We have a really cool veterans program, which we've launched. Thanks to Fred and Linda Milanovich, generous donors. They have given us a fund to work from, and we are serving veterans. So if you know of a veteran who needs some sort of services, please put them in touch with us, because we now can serve them like we never could before due to the generosity of the Milanovich Fund. And we still find we entered a veteran's home the other day, and you could see daylight. You could see the sky right through the ceiling in the living room. The roof was collapsing. Someone was living in the garage. I mean, there are a lot of folks out there, and you can get on the freeways and just whistle along, never even realize the pain and suffering and the horrible living conditions that some of these folks are in. And so we're trying to find them and get a good roof over their head and recognize them for their service. And so those are kind of some of the exciting things we've got. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff going on at Habitat. I should probably mention our construction training program.
That's what I wanted to talk about. And there's another one I remember too. Was before we go to that one, is the license plate. Tell us about the license plate.
Oh yeah, our license plate is out there in the wild. It was approved by Governor Ducey a year or so ago, and it's now in production. You can go buy it. It's a cool Habitat blue, and it says Habitat for Humanity on the bottom of it. And it costs you, I think, $17 extra, or no, $25. 17 of it comes back to the mission of Habitat. And we would love to just see those on more and more cars. And I'll tell you, that looks good on every make and model and color car. I can guarantee you.
That is a nice blue color. I got to get me one of those this year, actually. So I'm supposed to trade my car in this year, so I know what license plate I'm putting on that one. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
so talk about the construction training program, because that's one that I think is really, really exciting.
Well, our construction training program, it's about a year old now. We're class 3. First class, we graduated, I think, 12 students. They all have found jobs in the construction industry. What it is, it's kind of a bootstrap program. People who want to gain new skills in the construction industry, generally folks that maybe didn't have a job or wanted to change careers. We had some troubled youth in the program. I mean, youth, they were adults. And what we do, it's a 17-week course. They get a stipend each week to attend. They learn all the construction skills in the classroom, and they still do. Now they're just spread out in the classroom with masks on and all of that. And then they go in either the afternoon or the morning, and they spend the rest of the day building or working on a Habitat home, usually with a Habitat family. So we are now to the third home that's been constructed by these folks. In fact, guess what? Tomorrow is the dedication. I'll be dedicating the home. Wells Fargo sponsored it, and the entire class built it from the cement up.
That's awesome.
And it is beautiful. It is really a beautiful home. Our second class was interrupted by COVID, and we had to dismiss it because it had started just right in the middle of this. But our third class hobbled through with all the restrictions and stops and starts and quarantines and you name it. And everybody is fine. And their graduation actually is next Monday. Chris is going to come to that graduation. They get a construction certificate. They get an OSHA certificate. If they needed to get a high school certificate, we offer that as well. Penn Foster online program. And we also help them with job placement. We have partnerships now with apprenticeships programs all over the state and in all the different fields, masonry, construction.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I got to hook up with you guys a little bit and tap some of those sources into our some of my builders. A lot of my builders I'm working with are looking for people. So I think there's some real good opportunities there to make some connections. And the other thing, going the other direction, I had the two ladies I mentioned from Elevate that are working with Tom Lehman and his whole group on training kids and giving them inner city kids opportunities for jobs and just career opportunities. I'd like to connect the dots with them, with their organization, with your training program, because I think there's some opportunities there to make that happen. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Mark, I had an opportunity to attend a wall signing down in Central City, where we were building two homes right next to each other, and met two young ladies who were part of the first CIT training class that we had.
Huh.
Obviously, the building trades is dominated by men, but these were two young ladies who had both recently been paroled from the Perryville Women's Correctional Institution. Having previously visited the Perryville Correctional Institution and spoken to some of the inmates there, some inmates there who had been there more than once, the biggest impediment that people have coming out of the prison system is how to stay out of the prison system.
Right.
These two ladies had been paroled by Perryville, really felt like they didn't have much, they fully expected that within 6 months, a year, they'd probably be back. But the construction training program that Habitat offers really gave them some hope that they didn't think they were going to be given.
Right.
These two ladies learned a skill.
Yep.
They demonstrated construction math, right? They demonstrated some reading proficiency. They demonstrated an ability to show up on time for work every day. Yeah. And to work outside, right? A lot of people think they might want to get into construction, and then they go outside and it's 110 degrees and the sun's beating down, and you're expected to be able to complete a job, but they did it, and they're amongst those folks that Jason talked about earlier that were gainfully employed.
Well, that's just it. I mean, going back to what I said earlier, it's like we can spend $1, or let's just say we can spend $10 keeping someone in jail, or we can spend maybe $5 giving them a skill to keep them out of jail, and they're going to become taxpayers to keep other people out of jail. It's like, how come we don't figure this out?
Exactly. I enjoy telling this story because those two women had more of an impact on me than almost anybody I've ever met through Habitat. Certainly, we have a life-changing impact on the families who are buying Habitat homes. But the impact that we had on these two ladies was equally as good.
Well, and I think the other thing too that I've noticed just for myself and other people I've spoken to is when you go and participate as a volunteer. I mean, it's easy to stroke a check and whatever, and we appreciate that. But I'll tell you, when you come down there and actually participate in one of those events, it's a life-changing event for you too.
It is.
I think a lot of people don't get that part of it. Yeah, it's changing the life of the people that you're helping, but it's also changing the way you look at the world, and it changes it for a good way, I think.
And everybody can't, one of Habitat's mottos is you don't have to swing a hammer to help.
Right.
Certainly, stroking checks and contributing to the organization is incredibly valuable. But if all you feel like you can do is stroke a check, I would invite you to attend one of our wall signing ceremonies,
or
house that you've contributed to. Meet the family whose life you're changing, and listen to the excitement in a kid's voice when that little boy or that little girl points out, "This is my bedroom. Yeah. I helped construct these walls. I helped paint this trim. And this is where I'm going to put my bed.
Right.
This is where I'm going to put my desk. Right. This is where my clothes are going to go." And in many instances, this will be the first time a child's had a bedroom of their own, or where they haven't been in a situation where they're sleeping on somebody's couch.
Right.
And stability goes a long way towards towards improving the lives of individuals, and to see a kid who hasn't known stability see that light at the end of the tunnel and know that I'm going to go to school every day, and this is where I'm going to come home and have a safe place to do homework.
Yeah.
And have a safe place to sleep every night.
We take it for granted.
You have to have a heart made of stone if it doesn't change you.
Exactly right. I totally agree with that. Another program that I found real interesting about Habitat is the Restore program. We talked about it a little bit. Tell us about the Restore program. Just give us a nutshell of how that all works.
Yeah, our Restore program, we have 5 retail outlets in the Valley. There's 2 in Phoenix, 1 in Tempe, 1 in Anthem, and 1 in Peoria. You can find them at habitatcaz.org under Restore. And they basically are a gently used household construction store.
Yep.
We only have clothing like Goodwill in one of them. All the rest, you usually won't find any clothing, but you will find windows, doors, paint, toilets, ceiling fans, light fixtures. And the cool thing about the restore program is we take a lot of stuff, we divert a lot of stuff that was going into the county landfill or to the dump. And when you walk by a home that's under construction or remodel and you see them pitching perfectly good stuff into a big green dumpster, we would love to take that and recycle it in our restores and sell it to a family that could use it in their own home. We don't charge any tax. And it's really an amazing event that really is speaks to our commitment towards sustainability, green building,
Yep.
and so forth.
So one of the things that I run into on my end of the spectrum, Jason, is we're doing so many houses remodels right now, and so we have clients, they're ripping out the whole damn kitchen, and there's nothing wrong with the cabinets. They're brown. And they don't want brown cabinets anymore, or the fridge is in a Sub-Zero and they want something new. So for them, I mean, they can donate this to the Restore program, right? And get a tax credit of some sort. Is that how that works?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, better than yet, if we get sufficient notice, we'll send our deconstruction crew to their home or office. We'll gently remove all that stuff ahead of the remodel. We'll give them a tax donation right on the spot. That stuff goes into our stores and is sold, and it stays out of the landfill. And to me, it's just an amazing, and more people just hit themselves flat on the forehead when they hear about that program.
I tell it all the time to my clients. I go, look, when you guys rip this whole kitchen out, we'll get our crew over here and you'll get a big tax credit for this whole thing. And when I say kitchens and bathrooms in some of these houses, I mean, they're 10, 15,000 square foot houses. There's a lot of cabinets. So it's a pretty sizable deduction. Now you add the doors, the windows, and all the things that can come out of there. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we've spent 2 weeks in homes in Paradise Valley and the like, just removing stuff ahead of we can't, there's some things we just can't take, but we'll take a lot of it and put it back into other people's homes that could use it, and you get the deduction rather than going into the landfill. And I'll tell you, contractors, your builder, your GC, they really love that too, because they don't want to mess around with that stuff. If they can come into a gutted kitchen and start installing the new stuff, they love that.
Yep.
So
well, I've got a kitchen about 20 feet away here that's going to be going to Restore pretty darn soon. So
that's awesome.
I'm very excited about that. So the other thing, you guys celebrated the move into the new headquarters this in the middle of the pandemic. Also, you guys have had a busy year, and so you got into the new office. How's that been?
Oh, it's been great. So Habitat Central Arizona is the product of 4 different affiliates in this big valley that merged together over about a 15-year period. And we never had our own consolidated office. So about a year ago this month, we decided to buy, pre-COVID, this office complex building on West Glendale, right off of I-17. And we now finally have a home for Habitat. After all the homes we built for people, we finally have our own home. And we're calling it the home office. Although we would love to, if somebody would like to have a naming opportunity for that office, we'll certainly consider that, like the two of you. But if other than that, we'll just continue to call it the home office. And it's Chris has been in there, and it's really a space that's going to really allow us to expand. We didn't buy a space that we needed for our staff right now. We thought big and broader, and we bought a space that we can plus up to. So we've got a lot of capability to grow, and I think we can do it. And I think the community, and with God's grace, we could certainly fill that building out and serve more and more families every year.
That's awesome. So Chris, how can someone become involved, and what can listeners do to help this organization? We talked about it a little bit before we started recording. I think you had some great ideas.
Yep. So, probably the easiest way that someone can help the organization is by becoming an evangelist for the mission. Tell people the good news that is Habitat for Humanity and the good work that we're doing. Second best way somebody can get involved is just write us a check. If you go to habitatzaz.org, there's a donate now button, I think, in the upper right-hand corner. And we'll make it very easy on you. And we'd love to have your money, and we commit to using it responsibly and to changing lives of people. We'd love for people to come out and volunteer with us. We have volunteer opportunities at our restores. We have volunteer opportunities At our build sites, we have volunteer opportunities in the neighborhoods where we're doing neighborhood revitalization. Obviously, during this time of the pandemic, our ability to utilize volunteers is somewhat limited. However, this pandemic's not going to last forever. We're going to come out the other side a stronger organization than we went into it, and we'd invite people to contact us and look at volunteering. Bring, many of your listeners are business owners.
Yep.
There's no better team building event than bringing a crew out to a Habitat home and having everybody swing a hammer for a day. Whether it's picking up nails on a job site, whether it's helping frame a wall, whether it's helping paint an interior. There's so many different things that people can come onto a job site and help us do that will help put a family into some really decent housing that they're going to own. That's going to really benefit not just the family that's there, but generations down the road.
Yep, and you also mentioned the diversity aspect, which I thought was
absolutely. So the final is that we're a nonprofit organization, but we're a nonprofit organization with a board of directors, and we want that board of directors to reflect the great diversity that is the valley that we all live in. And so we're looking for people of all different backgrounds who are passionate about the Habitat mission, who want to make sure that people have affordable, decent housing to live in, to raise their hands and say, I'd like to join the board. If you're a young professional, we've got a fantastic group that we call Habitat Young Professionals. That's a great training ground for folks that think that board service might be something that they want to get into, as they advance in their career. We got some really dynamic young folks that are on that board, that are doing some great fundraising work for us, that are doing a great job of helping spread that Habitat word, that are doing some great networking. And Camille Perez, who's actually the president of that board, actually sits on the Habitat board. So it's a great gateway of, it's a great sort of minor leagues in terms of developing that muscle for board service. But what we're looking for is we're looking for diverse, for people of diverse backgrounds that represent the great diversity of the valley, to help us grow this organization and ensure that everybody in Arizona, everybody in the valley, has a safe, decent, affordable place to live, a place that they can call home.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, you guys. This was just fantastic. I learn every time I talk to the two of you, I learn something new and more. And I'm just so proud to be a part of this organization. And I do look forward to those years where I can give more, because I definitely know where I'm going to give them, because it's just such a rewarding experience overall. So there's a text number that I think you flashed us, Jason. What's that text number?
Yeah, if you text 44321 on your cell phone, you'll reach the donation website, and from there you can donate any amount you wish via the text function. And we're encouraging people to do $35 a month, because this is our 35th year. We're celebrating 35 years in the Valley, and if you do $35 for 12 months, that's about 400 and something. So that's about your Arizona tax credit for a single person. So great way to give if you'd like to try that.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic job, you guys. I look forward to doing another live broadcast out on one of the sites sometime. So we'll do that. And I hope to have you guys both back, because you guys do a great job. You just, like you say, the show's called Inspiring Living. Well, you guys live it, breathe it, and I'm just proud to be a part of it. So thank you so much.
Mark, thank you very much for having us. Thank you for giving us a platform to spread the good news that is Habitat.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason and Chris. That was so inspiring, and I commend both of you for your spirit, energy, and passion in all you're doing to lead this amazing organization. I encourage all of you listening to get involved by either making a donation or joining us in all the opportunities to serve this organization and our community. We have some great podcasts coming to you in the weeks ahead, so stay tuned, and thanks for your continued listening. Okay, I want to give a big thank you to all of you who have been listening to our podcast, as our listeners keep growing nicely. Thank you also for the ratings and reviews. Remember, the first review we get dated February 3rd or later will receive a free Candelaria Collection pasta maker. So give us some love on those ratings and reviews, and make sure you direct message or email me that you posted the review so we can get you your pasta maker. We love giving those pasta makers away. We do our best to inspire living in everything we do, from our podcast to our cooking classes to our tours, and of course, with our Candelaria Design homes. Okay, have a great week, everyone. Stay safe, and let's all live our lives with love, compassion, grace, and positivity. See you next week. Because Inspiring Living is all about the people and the organizations that inspire us, we are excited to have Monogram Appliances as one of our sponsors. Anytime we do a new kitchen or a kitchen remodel, Monogram Appliances are what we recommend to our client. Their appliances are the definition of luxury, meticulously detailed using the finest materials and an ownership experience that is second to none. This is how Monogram is always thinking ahead and inspiring and elevating the kitchen experience. Because at Monogram, they don't just elevate one thing, they elevate everything. I want to say a big thank you to my good friends at Stockett Tile and Granite Company, where your project is our priority. I want to thank the Stockett team along with so many others who contributed to the success of our fabulous demonstration kitchen in our new Candelaria design office expansion. You will have to check out our online video cooking classes, and our kitchen is amazing. I've had the pleasure of working with the Stockett team for nearly 40 years on many spectacular projects, and trust me, they are the epitome of excellence when it comes to tile, marble, and granite work, bar none. Their skill and customer service is impeccable, and the bottom line is they are just good people. I have traveled with, dined with, and just had good times, both personally and professionally, with Dave Stockett and his lovely wife, Becky, and they are the best. When it comes to your next tile and stone project, make sure Stockett Tile and Granite is a part of your team. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. We encourage you to write a review, screenshot it, and share it with your friends. Please instant message it to me and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We thank you for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights to inspiring living next week.